This founder runs an AI consulting firm helping mid market and PE backed companies build custom automation tools. But did their site sound like every other AI consultancy, smart, polished, and maybe a little generic? In this Triody Jam, we explored that and dug into how to turn their custom AI builds H1 headline into a clear messaging wedge around accuracy, regulation, and high stakes workflows, aka their actual value props, plus how small tweaks to proof and process could instantly boost trust. Let's get into it.
My name is Tarun Thummala. I am the CEO at PressW. We're an AI consulting and engineering firm, particularly focused on this new wave of generative AI that's emerged like over since the release of ChatGPT. And to get even more specific than that, what does the problem or kind of area that we're really obsessed about is like how do agents and this like new form of AI and technology actually integrate into a production environment in a business? What does that look like? How are they supposed to interact with each other, with humans? And then, more importantly than all of that, like where is the actual ROI from these deployments? Like how can we drive actually like a new type of business? And so, yeah, we've been obsessed with that problem for the last 3 years, and it's been a lot of fun.
Right on, and definitely it's a fast moving space that's changing all of the time. What kind of inspired you to start PressW and or kind of what's the kind of your background?
Sure. Yeah, so I've been in the AI space for like close to a decade now. This is actually my second company in the AI
Mhm.
space as well. I pretty much after graduating college, or actually during my senior year, I co-founded a company that was like in the events space and in particular like events data space. So we worked. We were building AI models and an AI platform around events, points of interest, helping match people and groups of people with locations and events and helping scheduling and reducing the overall friction of those things and managed to build a team. And then we got acquired at the end of 2022. And it just so happened, like as we were going through our acquisition, the ChatGPT came out, and my team and I, my two partners here, have been in the AI space for right alongside me, and we watched the world kind of explode. It became the fastest app to reach 1 million users ever, and for us, like this was the first instance where we had like a sort of generalized form of intelligence. And the real beauty that OpenAI did was that they made it available through an API. And so anyone in the world could leverage this like fantastic technology that OpenAI and companies like billions of dollars creating. We can leverage it in an application layer really, really intelligently. And so we knew that we wanted to hop right back in, and that's kind of what became the seed behind PressW was rather than focusing on it from a product perspective, let's focus on obtaining as much information about this new world as possible. And so for us, that meant services, right? And actually getting deep within a customer's company, actually embedding ourselves and our engineering team with them, understanding workflows, understanding how to transform those workflows using this tech. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years.
I love it. And what's kind of the types of customers that you work with in PressW? Like what type
Yeah.
of like industries and or kind of types of businesses?
Yeah, so I would say we prefer working with mid-market businesses largely. So businesses that have achieved some level of scale is definitely our preferred customer. And the reason is like super simple. A good example is automating invoices at PressW isn't that big of a task. Maybe it takes me an hour or two a month, right? The time savings aren't really there, but automating invoices at a Fortune 2000 business, like we're talking about potentially hundreds of hours that you're saving. And so the impact that a lot of these solutions can bring once you've achieved some scale in a business is pretty dramatic. And so we like to work with businesses of scale, but I'd say it's about a 70-30 split, 70% kind of mid-market enterprise businesses and 30% like startups and SMBs.
Awesome. So the first thing that I am immediately seeing is a really, really clear minimalist design that is well branded and very much clear kind of around your process for custom AI design and development. So the first thing I'm seeing outside of that is kind of your H1 being custom AI design and development, bespoke AI solutions tailored to your specific business needs and challenges, and then obviously a CTA link to schedule a free consult. I love the CTA, having it be really clear right up front. My kind of question to you is, this feels a little bit, it could be on literally any AI consulting website, but from your own process, you're really, really passionate about it. You have a ton of experience. So does your team. What's kind of your secret sauce, and or like, could you maybe infuse that into your H1?
Yeah, great question. I think to answer the latter question, absolutely, and I think that's what we should be doing. I think the secret sauce really comes down to the fact that we've been in this arena of developing apps around like ChatGPT and LLMs like that, literally like from basically a month after release, right? Like from and so we were one of the first into the arena. That has taught us a tremendous amount, and not just about like how to the actual tech and the architecture there. It's about the way that you design these products so that you can actually get the adoptions. Like when we work with these larger teams, it doesn't matter how brilliant, GPT-5 or 6 is. Like if nobody's using the actual tool, then is it really, it produces no ROI. And so there's been a ton of learnings for us around how do you get the proper buy-in from not just the stakeholders but also the teams of people that you're deploying these tools into? How do you design the product such that they feel good about using it? How do you design it in such a way that it can actually improve without ourselves becoming the bottleneck and having to manually adjust prompts and things like that? And then how do you actually build it with the correct guardrails and security in place? And so like that kind of experience only comes through building these things dozens and dozens of times. Like we've been fortunate enough to lead like well over 60 of these kind of production deployments. And so that experience, I think, is like what puts us like steps or sets us apart. And then also just like cleanliness in terms of like how we actually build our engineering team, how they are able to learn about the existing customer, how they're able to leverage the coding tools that we've deployed and use internally to like move faster than the other teams. I think like those are the two really significant differences when it comes to working with us.
So I'm hearing a couple of really interesting things here that I would almost hint at being kind of your messaging wedge. And this is something that I come across on a lot of my podcasts that I'm doing, and then also just in the work that I do with clients as well, which is a messaging wedge being that thing that is the last thing someone is thinking or feeling before they sign up and become a client. In your case, so I'm hearing a couple of things just from there that could kind of hint into this, which is, hey, you're really, really early on. You were one of the first AI dev consultancies, really deep experience across your team, like way before even ChatGPT, having kind of a custom process where you're kind of embedded in there. Those are all fine and good. Is there something kind of behind, but that's also something that a lot of other consultancies could say as well. Is there something kind of beyond that you can kind of say that, is this a flagship of how our team operates or how we handle projects?
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer that question, like we adopt this sort of and this term might be overloaded today, but like really like this forward deployed engineer mindset that kind of comes through, Palantir was the first one to coin it, but really the difference between like deploying software before and today is that traditional software that like people have been buying and selling for the last like 20, 30 years, like you could give somebody an app specification, they could go off, and as long as there's no bugs, like it's going to do the things that you kind of anticipate it does. When it comes to AI, like AI is probabilistic software, right? Meaning like, you tell it, if you can go into ChatGPT and ask it the same thing 10 times, it's going to give you 10 different answers, maybe the same conclusion, but it'll say it differently and stuff. And so what that requires is much more fine-grained control over the actual process flow and the data flow. And so that like achieving 60% is pretty easy. Achieving 95% accuracy and true adoption within a company is really difficult. And so what we found is like by marrying the engineer straight as close to the problem, the workflow, and the team in our customer as possible, that's how they're able to understand the process really deeply. And like because of that model, we're able to deploy I think more effective solutions that we find are, like I think that's a core differentiator between us and like a lot of other firms that exist out there, not to mention like experience with certain types of problems.
That's super interesting. Would you almost say at that point, because of your model and the fact of like having just like really deeply experienced engineers in the space, that you're able to kind of get closer to that 90 to 95% range instead of the 65%?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of our use cases, where we work in healthcare, legal, finance, compliance, even, a lot of our customers like demand that level of accuracy, right? And so unless you can, again, like to build a prototype, to build a demo, not that hard. To put something in production that's working at scale and actually driving like real ROI, and sometimes it's a binary outcome, right? Like it's like unless this product can be 95% accurate, we can't use it. And so like unless we're able to develop that product in the first place, then it's like it's either a go or a no go. And I think like for example, a majority of my team are senior engineers, senior software engineers. They're all like US based. Like these are high level resources that are expensive in any tech organization. But we specifically employ those types because like a lot of the outcomes that they need to be able to drive are pretty mission critical for a lot of these businesses, right? These are high cost centers that we're able to automate. And so we just find like we can't get those results without like deploying that model.
Now we're getting some really interesting. You've had so many things that are really interesting there, which is, well, I wonder if your messaging wedge is actually the fact, hey, we kind of get into these highly regulated industries, fintech, healthcare, things like that, where you have to be accurate if it's even going to deploy at all. And you can then mention the kind of that 90 to 95% benchmark that you just set out there. That's what you should lead with as your H1. So instead of just saying custom AI design and development, which any AI consultancy can say, and you could literally put that on, to be candid, any other website, and they wouldn't know it was yours. But at Press W, you just kind of explained it yourself, which is, hey, we do this in like highly regulated industries where accuracy is expected. And if it's not expected, you're not even going to get that. What do you think about something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. A lot of times, yeah, I mean, some of I think like the experience that we have in these regulated industries allows us to like translate more broadly. Like not every customer that we have is in a highly regulated industry, for example. But I think some riff on that where we're able to say like, we're a team that's in these high, like, in high functioning, high regulation industries. We take that experience and are able to like deploy at, kind of throughout. So something along those lines might. Makes a ton of sense to me.
Here's also the dirty secret about kind of going a little bit more niche, maybe than even you're even comfortable with saying highly regulated accuracy sort of things. Is not going to exclude everyone else. If anything, it's going to make you way more likely to close with other clients as well as those ones, because they're going to see, oh, this company gets it, and they gets it at a very, very high level, at a way where it's like, if they can do this for a really heavily regulated fintech company, then of course they're going to be able to do it for my startup and that isn't regulated.
Right. Yeah, that's a totally fair point.
And then another question I had for you is, I know you have a bunch of testimonials on your homepage. I'm not sure why they're not on this page, but do you have like a flagship product or a flagship testimonial or a flagship case study? Ideally one in a regulated industry that you could literally put right below your hero section to just further demonstrate, hey, this is kind of our wedge. And now you kind of see an example. So you're just immediately smacked with something that's like super awesome proof before you go into your process section.
So is that like what you recommend mostly, is like you see like, your hero and then social proof kind of comes in right underneath that?
So nice. Oftentimes you'll often see that kind of like logo, the almost overplayed now like row of logos right up behind the hero section. Yeah. Yes, it's overplayed, but it also just kind of works to kind of give you a little bit of proof. What I'd argue in your case, instead of doing that, is I would just move one of your testimonials, or ideally a flagship use case where you can just kind of spell out, hey, we did this thing and it's immediately visual. That's going to give you that proof. So then when you go into the process section below, you're now suddenly doing what I would call, you have your wedge moment. So it's immediately clear what you do. Then you have proof. And now you're getting into a process, which gets into what I'd call your wedge to wow. So all those kind of wow moments are like, okay, this is this company talking about their process and this is why it works. That's what I would kind of recommend.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
So do you want to go ahead and move down to the process section?
Sure.
So that I really like the fact that you are kind of spelling out your process. It's obviously clear you've done a lot of thought here. So you have kind of AI product discovery, prototype, and production and maintenance. I'd almost say, could you get even a little bit more specific into what you were kind of sharing before earlier on in this podcast, where you're kind of going into like clearly a lot of passion, clearly a lot of depth, clearly a lot of expertise? Could you flesh out these sections to be a little bit more specific into exactly what AI product discovery looks like, exactly what prototyping looks like, and exactly what production and maintenance look like?
So we spell it out here. Are you suggesting like we kind of collapse these sections together? Like here's some more in-depth version.
I think this
for
actually
each of
works
these?
pretty well. I would
Yeah.
maybe say a couple of things that you can immediately do to just make it a little bit more clear would be get rid of learn more. That's like what I'd call just a pretty lazy CTA. That's like learn more about what. It's not really
Hmm.
telling you anything. So could you just immediately just make it abundantly clear that when you click on one, it's going to take you to the product discovery section. If you click on
Mm,
prototype, it's going to click you to the prototype section. If you click on production and maintenance, it's going to click you there.
got it. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay.
And then scroll down. So I like these kind of sections, makes a lot of sense. Scroll. So now we get into your final CTA. My next question I would have to you is, do you have, like, I know you have this on your homepage, could you add in 3 more testimonials directly below the process? So you're just kind
Yeah.
of further reinforcing proof and just making it so obvious who you're for and who you're not for.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would also just maybe specify, I like the final CTA. I like that you have the same CTA button across both of those where it says schedule free consult. Sounds really, really simple, but like you create micro confusion in my
Mhm.
experience if you have different CTA language, even if it's going to the same call page. So keeping it the same button color, same everything makes sense. I would maybe challenge you to say, instead of ready to transform your business with AI, which could literally belong to an AI consultancy, it could belong to an accounting firm, it could belong to a marketing agency. Is there a way you can just further kind of reinforce, hey, ready to, to a custom build in your highly regulated industry? Something like that just kind of further reinforces your own messaging wedge.
Yep. Yep.
Anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, this has been super helpful. I think it's just like my key takeaways are um what is our story in particular? Like what kind of message are we, if I think about it more from like a customer is coming to our webpage, let's just say that they're unaware of who we are, right? And
Mhm.
they're coming to this page, like we're trying to take them down the journey of going from unaware to aware, but awareness is not the form of awareness, like awareness that we have today, like the thing that they would come away with is like these guys build AI, which is probably not the exact, like we don't want that awareness. We want something deeper than that that's even more specific to us, so that when you're comparing Apple, exactly as you said, like every other web page or every other agency that's doing the same thing, like there's clearly something different about one and the other. And so that customer journey can basically be modeled throughout that page and just like kind of using that as the reference point to guide the rest of the decisions on there or the
Yeah,
like
yeah,
choices.
totally
Yeah.
spot on right there. Didn't mean to interrupt at all. But yeah, like it's the challenge of every service business, myself included in that, is like what is everyone has their own special sauce. And now it's kind of up to all of us to figure out how do you communicate your special sauce so you don't sound like every other AI consultancy out there.
Yep. Yep. Totally.
Awesome. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, this has been great. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to Closure Jams.
Yeah.